What if your last pizza delivery ended with a bomb around your neck? On August 28, 2003, in Erie, Pennsylvania, 46-year-old pizza delivery driver Brian Wells showed up to work expecting a normal shift. Around 1:30 in the afternoon, an order came in. 2 pizzas to an address on the edge of town. Wells drove out, but instead of a house, he found a TV transmission tower at the end of a dirt road. And waiting there were people who would change the course of his life forever. What they did was lock a metal collar around his neck. They handed him a homemade shotgun disguised as a cane, and they gave him a 9-page handwritten note, a real-life scavenger hunt with a list of tasks in order for him to get specific keys to disarm the device. The first task, walk into a PNC bank and demand $250,000. And at 2:28 p.m., that's exactly what Brian Wells did. He passed the teller a note. She told him she couldn't access the vault and handed over just $8,702. Wells took the bag and calmly walked out. He then drove to a nearby McDonald's looking for the next clue, part of the scavenger hunt that was supposed to save his life. Unfortunately, Brian never made it. State troopers pulled him over minutes later. Wells sat cross-legged on the pavement, handcuffed, looking directly at the officers and saying, "It's going to go off. I'm not lying." The bomb squad was called and they raced to the scene. They arrived 3 minutes too late. At 3:18 p.m., the collar bomb detonated on live television. Brian Wells was gone. Now this is where the story goes from shocking to absolutely unbelievable. In the weeks that followed, a man named Bill Rothstein, who lived near the transmission tower, called police to report something completely unrelated. There was a dead body in his freezer. The body belonged to a man named James Roden, who had been harmed by his girlfriend, Marjorie Deal Armstrong, a woman with a very dark history. Investigators began connecting the dots. Deal Armstrong, it turned out, was the mastermind behind the entire bomb collar scheme. Her motive? She wanted to hire someone to take out her elderly father so she could collect her inheritance. She needed money to pay for that. And the bank robbery was exactly how she planned to get it. And the bomb around Wells's neck was built by Rothstein, her ex-fiance. Wells, according to testimony, he was in on the plan, but was told that the device was fake. When he realized it was real, he tried to run and physically forced to wear it. The FBI would later call this the most complicated and bizarre case in the agency's history. Kenneth Barnes, who helped orchestrate the plot, was sentenced to 45 years in state prison. Marjorie Deal Armstrong was convicted of federal charges and sentenced to life. However, she passed away in state prison in 2017. Rothstein died of cancer before he could be charged, which leads you to think that maybe he was clearing his conscience because of his ultimate fate. In Brian Wells, his true level of involvement remains one of the most debated questions in the true crime community today. The whole story was documented in the 2018 Netflix series Evil Genius, definitely worth a watch. Which brings me to you. If you've made it this far, you clearly love a true crime deep dive. So do me a favor, drop a comment with a case that you think deserves more attention. Subscribe so you never miss one of these, and share this with someone who thinks that they've heard it all. Because trust me, they haven't heard this one.